I may be wearing a Star Wars shirt and hat, but that doesn't mean I can't talk about Star Trek Lower Decks. So last week was the final episode of Season 4 of Star Trek Lower Decks. So this week I'm going to be doing my entire review of Season 4 of Star Trek Lower Decks. Some overarching thoughts before we talk about each episode and then the season as a whole is I did very much enjoy the season. I thought it was well together. I really loved the character development, especially for Mariner, who really needed some good development. And also really addressing some of her mental health issues that she needed to address. Yes, she's become, better behaved officer, working more with the crew, but never really the underlying issue. Like, why is she so self-destructive in her behaviors? Why is she always sabotaging her chances at promotion? Like, basically, why is she self-sabotaging herself and self-destructive? What is the root of those behaviors? And the season kind of shows like her kind of relapsing, but that makes sense because, yes, she learned to be basically a better team player, but the heart of those issues was never really addressed. And them all, especially her getting promoted to lieutenant junior grades, is I think what really put her on the path to not necessarily reconcile, but overcome those problems. Especially because, unlike other commanders, Ransom was not going to basically let her self-sabotage herself. So that means she had to stick with it. She was sometimes throwing somebody into a fire is not always the best way of addressing issues they may have, especially mental health issues. But in Mariner's case, it kind of needed. She needed that push to actually take care of herself. And then in episode 9, she's fighting the Klingon and they have to take a break because it's raining glass. Go figure, it's such a Star Trek thing. But really, she's able to come, basically that's her vent. And through the conversation that she really acknowledges, I think finally to herself, why she has been so self-destructive, both in her professional life, but even in her personal life as well. Yes, she'll probably still always be, the kind of Starfleet officer who's going to take action first, is going to be a bit more of a maverick, but a lot of the more harmful stuff is going to be gone. And that was the heart of her character development course of the entire season. Earlier on in the season, we see her, trying to get herself demoted and failing because Ransom's realizing what she's doing. Then we see Ransom, her mother, obviously Captain Freeman, and all her friends acknowledge that she's become more self-destructive in her actions and missions, which is probably reflected in the fact that she can be self-destructive in terms of her career going on as well. And then finally, at the end of the episode, she stands up to Starfleet and she stands up for Starfleet and does the right thing. Season 1 Mariner probably would have sided with the Colonel, but Season 4 Mariner, because of all the development she had previously and over the course of this season, has really helped shape her into probably the Starfleet officer she was meant to be. And there's several other stuff we could talk about Mariner, but Bulmer as well, learning to be a leader. Now, I do feel like he didn't get as much as some of the others. Like, yes, he got some great stuff in I think it was episode 2, maybe 3, where he really learned to lead. But at the same time, I don't remember seeing too much of that shown other times that are developing where he's capable of being the acting captain. Like, I really don't see that. But at the same time, when you look at other things, like, yeah, it makes sense that he can get there. His only problem really is his own self-confidence issues, not really relation to his ability to actually command. Self-confidence, not wanting to get members of his team killed. Like, all that's basically on him. So once he gets past that, he's probably effectively ready, just needs to be nurtured along the way. Like, I think it was in season 3, there literally was a scene where Boimler is basically congratulated on his quick thinking by Commander Ransom. Meanwhile, the ensign who volunteers to basically be acting captain for like the night shift is like, yeah, whatever. Ransom's like, meanwhile, even though Boimler doesn't volunteer for that, Ransom actually recognizes what Boimler did, and that's just something to note of. Boimler always had it in him. I wish there might have been a little more to get him to where he was at the end of season 4, but what they did show him was pretty good. Now, especially now, Tindy has had a lot going on as well, having to basically confront her distaste with her own Orion culture, her background. And that's actually probably going to play more in the role in season 5 than season 4. Season 4, we had some previous episodes just addressing that stuff as we learn more and more about her and her relationship with her family and her culture, and how she's really different than a lot of Orion's side. She's not big into, the Orion syndicate and pirating and all that. She's not into that, unlike some other Orions. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays in season 5. And really, for her character development story, I don't think there's too much to talk about in terms of season 4 because I think it was more setting up for season 5. And with Rutherford, honestly, most of his development has already been pretty done. He's like the most character-wise stable of our main characters, which in some ways makes sense. He's an engineer. We all know what engineer is about, but he's a pretty good engineer. So I got to say, at the end when Tindy's leaving basically to return to her family in order to follow through on the agreement that was made earlier in the last episode, yeah, definitely Rutherford and Tindy did not want to leave each other. Yeah, I ship them. I definitely do. There's a few other things to note. Lynn had well, it's small, but it's still a great arc. She begins the season pretty much basically keep on trying to send a message to her former captain because she wants to get back to the Vulcan science fleet and all that, whatever they call it. By the end of the episode, she gets a message from her former Vulcan captain and she ignores it. She makes the choice there to stay with Starfleet, which makes sense because think about this. Basically, now her first day, her first story where we really get to see her, she follows basically her gut, her instinct, and she gets promoted in Starfleet. Meanwhile, when she did that and saved the day, by the way, on a Vulcan ship, she was transferred off. Totally reflects, I think, a little bit about Vulcans, but also about her. She found a place where her basically being an unhinged Vulcan, which still to humans is very logical and emotionless, but she found a place where I think she can belong, and I think maybe next season they might address that more, but while her character story was small across season 4, it was great. There's a few other things we can take a note of too, but I think I really covered the heart of the character stories. And gotta say, the fact that they brought Locano back to basically be the big bad of season 4 is just crazy. And I really like how they played up to his ego being, why he's doing all this, and partially also leads to his downfall as well. And that also compares nicely with Tom Paris because, let's be real, they're not only played by the same actor, there used to be a theory that was kind of debunked, was debunked in this episode that they're actually the same character. Definitely not the case. But thing is this, they were both basically very skilled pilots and had a bit of an ego. Tom Paris not so much, but also Tom Paris, he had a father who loved him, who just didn't say it enough probably. I have to rewatch Voyager to remember all that. But Tom Paris got sent to the Delta Quadrant and got basically the character development. This is Voyager we're talking about. You watch Star Trek Voyager not for the character development. You watch it for Tom Paris in the Doctor in 7. And who else? Like those are the only characters who do anything interesting on Voyager. And I like Voyager. Again, maybe it has its problems. But we're not talking about Star Trek Voyager. We're talking about Star Trek Lower Decks. The Colonel is like a dark reflection of Tom Paris. So does that mean if we went to the Mirror universe, Mirror Tom Paris would be Locarno and Mirror Locarno would be Paris? That would work for me. But obviously, they did play some fun at how Locarno and Paris were played by the same actors. But by doing that, they also showed that they're two different characters. And this episode really showed that they are two different characters. Tom doesn't have the same ego that Locarno has. Tom, well, he joined the Marquis. He was not going to create a whole new, independent fleet just to spite Starfleet for drumming him out of the academy. That's what Locarno did. And he basically failed because of his own ego. But again, we're getting off track, but not because that is a part of the episode and the show as a whole. Though we don't have a lot of Locarno's development in here, but I do like how basically they did some showing, the fact that basically Nova Fleet was we're all equal, so and right at the start of Locarno's downfall, he basically tries to give everyone an order, and they just ignore him because they don't take orders. They're all equals, and him trying to put himself above them basically got him abandoned by Nova Fleet. So see how that's all connected there? And those were people who were disaffected by orders in some form, or sometimes in some cases, fed lies, but they were still disaffected to the point that those lies could work. So that is something to note. And Starfleet's not having that trouble with their lower deckers. Maybe it's because Starfleet, well, at least as we see through the Cerritos, is a much healthier workplace than a lot of others. You don't have as much backstabbery going on too. I mean, I think part of what they really wanted to show though is Starfleet was always going to be basically a thorn inside for Locarno, because they actually are a good organization despite their flaws, which Mariner does acknowledge at some point in the season. I forget exactly which episode, but that's kind of what I'm getting at. But I really can't wait for season 5. I think it's going to be interesting, especially with the change in the status quo status. Though I have a feeling it's going to be kind of like with Boimler, where it's going to be resolved within a few episodes. Because that was way back in season 2 when Boimler briefly left the Cerritos. But maybe they are going to try to do something more permanently in changing up the status quo. That would be a pretty unique way of, not unique, because other shows have changed status quos before, but I think a pretty interesting way of advancing the show's story by having that change in the status quo. But we just gotta wait and see how that will develop. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed my review. Please let me know what your thoughts on Star Trek Lower Decks Season 4 is, whatever term we want to use it, whatever preposition, in the comment section down below. I don't even know where I was going with that sentence, but you know what? Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please be sure to give this video a like, upvote, and share. And of course, thank you for watching, and as always, have a good day, a good night, wherever you are. Live long and prosper. Thank you for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to give this video a like, as well as subscribe to my channel and ring that bell to stay up to date on my latest content. Also, be sure to check out the link tree in the description, as well as any other links I have down there.